The ultimatum. The day the sky cracked open over Earth, the world didn't end, it went viral. At first, people thought it was a trick of light. Hundreds of silver specks appeared in orbit, glittering against the sun like a necklace of dying stars. But within minutes, those specks grew larger, sharper, each one a massive alien warship the size of a city, gliding into formation above the planet. Power grids flickered, satellites went blind, and every government on Earth went silent. Then came the message. A voice, metallic and regal, thundered across every frequency, every screen, every speaker, even the old analog radios in dusty basements. People of Terra. I am Commander HFY of the Threx Dominion. This world is now claimed by the Eternal Empire. You have 24 of your planetary hours to surrender your leaders, your weapons, and your defenses. Resistance will be met with extinction. The broadcast ended as suddenly as it began, leaving a stunned, shivering silence across the globe. For a moment, humanity froze. Then, within an hour, the internet exploded. Mara Holt sat in the UN Defense Center beneath Geneva, watching 1,000 live feeds at once, world leaders panicking, military officials arguing, and, somehow, an endless stream of memes popping up faster than command briefings. Her comms officer turned from his console, deadpan. Captain, Earth is trending. She rubbed her temples. Of course it is. The screens behind her filled with chaos. Someone had edited the alien broadcast into a dance remix. A comedian was already streaming, 24 hours to surrender? Bro, I've waited longer for pizza delivery. Entire subreddits were dedicated to #Threx take the moon instead. Panic and humor collided into a single, absurd symphony, the most human reaction imaginable. Mara smirked despite herself. We're facing interstellar conquest, and half the planet's response is sarcasm. God, I love this species. Meanwhile, the Threx were not amused. High above the stratosphere, Commander HFY watched the endless human chatter flooding his screens. Thousands of voices, laughing, mocking, uploading nonsense, filled his comms translation buffer. His second officer approached cautiously. My lord, the humans are not mobilizing their leaders. They appear to be broadcasting jokes. HFY narrowed his eyes. His scaled hands tightened around the edge of the command throne. Jokes. Yes, Commander. They are comparing us to, the officer hesitated, movie villains. A low growl rumbled in HFY's throat. Primitive mockery. It is their fear, masked by noise. They will kneel when our ships descend. But deep within his Empire-grade warship, the Threx translators continued to choke on memes, slang, and sarcasm. Their algorithms couldn't separate a joke from a military command. Humanity's chaotic humor had become digital camouflage. Back on Earth, Mara attended an emergency conference. General Alvarez stood at the head of the table, voice hard as steel. Satellites confirm over 500 ships in orbit. Each one armed. They could glass us from orbit, and we wouldn't have time to blink. We need to coordinate a global surrender plan. No, Mara interrupted. That's exactly what they expect. We've got 24 hours, General. Let's make it 23 of pure hell for them. He frowned. You think laughter's a battle plan? She smirked. I think confusion is. And right now, we're the most confusing species in the galaxy. A low chuckle rippled around the room. Even in the face of annihilation, there was something electric in the air, not despair, but defiance. The humankind. By nightfall, the Internet's madness only grew. Every language, every nation, every culture joined in memes, songs, live shows, even fake alien surrender hotlines. The planet laughed not because it wasn't afraid, but because it refused to let fear win. Somewhere in the noise, scientists and soldiers worked quietly under Mara's command. Hidden behind encrypted humor boards and meme networks, they shared schematics, tactical codes, and data collected from the alien broadcasts. What looked like jokes to the Threx were in fact ciphers. Project Backfire had begun. As the 24-hour clock ticked down, humanity's laughter echoed across the stars, carried through the same frequencies the Threx had hijacked. And in his orbiting throne room, Commander HFY stared at the flood of human transmissions in disbelief. Endless laughter, faces, songs, and strange words his translators couldn't process. He leaned forward, voice low and uncertain. What kind of species laughs on the eve of extinction? On Earth, Mara smiled at the same moment, glancing up at the sky through the defense base's reinforced glass. The kind that doesn't plan to die quietly. The 23rd hour. By the 12th hour, the Threx Dominion had begun their preliminary bombardment. Tiny streaks of light drones, not missiles, dropped into the atmosphere to scan Earth's defenses. Every camera on the planet tracked them, every network speculated. The aliens expected panic. They found confusion instead. Because while the skies glowed with alien probes, the humans were busy throwing a party. In London, someone projected a hologram of an alien head on Big Ben with the caption, "TikTok, losers." In New York, people filled Times Square chanting, "Come and get us," with plastic alien masks. A crowd even launched paper airplanes labeled interplanetary peace offers. Everywhere, laughter rose, not careless laughter, but a defiant primal noise that spread like wildfire. Deep beneath Geneva, Captain Mara Holt stood in front of a dozen screens as data poured in. Dr. Kian Lee, the youngest scientist on her team, adjusted his glasses and spoke fast, words tumbling out like bullets. "I've been studying their comms, Captain. The Threx AI translation system relies on pattern recognition. They don't handle randomness well, it destabilizes their signal algorithms." Mara raised a brow. Meaning, Kian said, grinning. "Our chaos is their kryptonite." He pulled up an example, a mashup of memes, random emojis, and broken code. They can't distinguish between humor and encryption. Their AI thinks sarcasm is an attack vector. Mara stared at the screen, then burst into a short laugh. "So, humanity's collective stupidity just became classified technology?" Kian smirked. "Weaponized nonsense, Captain. We can hijack their comms, we just have to bury real commands inside humor. They'll never know what's a joke and what's a strategy." She turned toward the glowing holographic world map, red dots marking every alien ship. "All right, Doctor. Start the upload. Let's make them regret ever listening in." By the 16th hour, Project Backfire was in full swing. Messages disguised as memes flew across encrypted networks. "Send more cats to orbit" meant launch decoy satellites. "LOL, fire the lasers" triggered automated defense grids. "Pizzas here" was code for activating anti-air batteries. To the Threx, Earth's data channels became incomprehensible, a swirling storm of digital madness. In orbit, Commander Vorkal's fleet drowned in static. Thousands of signals flooded their systems. Human voices, laughter, musical notes, even videos of dancing animals. "Commander," an officer barked, "our comm relays are collapsing. Their signals are recursive, they feed into our sensors and loop infinitely." Vorkal slammed a clawed fist against the console. "It's interference. Jam it." "We've tried, sir. But the frequencies keep changing. They're transmitting emotional audio." "Emotional?" "Yes, Commander. Joy. Humor. Their laughter is mathematical chaos." Vorkal's scaled lips curled. "No pattern, no order, barbaric species." He turned toward the viewport, watching the blue planet below. "If they will not kneel, they will burn." Back on Earth, Mara and Kian coordinated with General Alvarez via encrypted hololink. The general looked tired, dark circles under his eyes. "Reports coming in. Threx are preparing for atmospheric entry. They'll hit major cities within hours." Mara nodded. "Then we keep feeding them confusion. The longer they misunderstand us, the better our chances." Kian added, "And our hack is spreading. Their smaller ships are mirroring corrupted data from the flagship. We can ride their own network like a wave." Alvarez allowed himself a grim smile. "If we survive this, Doctor, I'll personally nominate you for a Nobel in mimetic warfare." Kian grinned faintly. "I'll settle for a planet that's still spinning tomorrow." By the 21st hour, human laughter filled the airwaves. Even soldiers in trenches played recordings of comedy shows through their comms. It wasn't morale, it was strategy. The more laughter, the more noise. The more noise, the less the aliens understood. Everywhere, people united not under one government, but under one absurd truth. If the world was going to end, it would end with a punchline. In the Threx command ship, VorKAL's sensors flickered. His screens showed distorted faces, humans smiling, pointing, laughing overlaid with alien system warnings. His translators emitted nonsense. Error. Meaning not found. Error. Humor detected. Error. Critical failure in logic core. He roared in frustration, claws slicing through the air. Enough. Deploy the invasion forces. Let their laughter burn in their throats. Down below, in the Geneva command room, Mara's eyes stayed locked on the countdown timer. 1 hour left. The Threx ships began descending through the clouds, leaving trails of burning atmosphere behind them. The world trembled. Mara straightened her jacket, glancing at Kian and Alvarez through the hologram feed. "All right, gentlemen," she said, her voice low but steady. "They're here." Kian swallowed. "What do we do now?" Mara looked up, the faintest smile on her face. "Now, we stop laughing and start fighting." Outside, the sky split open with fire. The 24th hour. The sky was on fire. Threx dropships tore through the atmosphere, streaking trails of burning plasma that split the night apart. Cities lit up like dawn under their descent. Sirens wailed across continents as the countdown reached its final hour, the 24th. From the Geneva Command Center, Captain Mara Holt watched the chaos unfold on the screens. Every major city on Earth had incoming vessels. Contact in New York, Beijing, Cairo, and Sao Paulo, her comms officer reported. They're deploying infantry armored, biomechanical and... "Keep tracking," Mara interrupted sharply. "And tell every defense node to hold until we give the signal." The signal. The one humanity had spent 23 hours laughing toward. Above the planet, aboard the Threx flagship Dominion Spear, Commander VorKAL stood on his observation deck, savoring the moment. Below him, Earth's oceans shimmered with reflected flame. "It is over," he declared. "By dawn, their species will be a memory." His crew murmured in agreement. Yet even now, the background hum of Earth's frequencies whispered through their ship waves of laughter, voices, static nonsense. One of his technicians turned nervously. "Commander, the human transmissions persist. They're overriding our local comm channels." VorKAL sneered. "Ignore them. Their laughter will soon fade beneath our cannons." But it didn't fade. It grew louder. On Earth, Dr. Kian Lee sat before a cluster of holographic panels glowing like ghostly blue suns. Lines of alien code flashed and rippled across the display. He whispered to himself, "Come on, come on." Mara stood behind him, arms crossed. "Talk to me, Kian." "The virus is ready," he said. "It rides on the same frequency their ships use for fleet coordination. Once we activate it, the signal loops through their entire network." "What happens then?" Kian gave a nervous grin. "Their ships will be broadcasting one thing: non-stop human laughter." Mara arched a brow. "You're telling me we're going to win a war with bad jokes?" He shrugged. "Technically, they're excellent jokes." Mara exhaled slowly. "Then let's make history. Execute Project Backfire." At her command, Earth's global satellites came alive. Thousands of dormant orbital stations and civilian towers reactivated, pulsing with synchronized data bursts. The first transmission was short and simple. "Dear Threx, we told you not to mess with Earth. Love, humanity." Then came the laughter, billions of voices, from soldiers to children, echoing through every layer of the electromagnetic spectrum. The sound rippled across orbit, a storm of joy and defiance. Inside the Threx fleet, systems began to fail. Their translation cores glitched, looping audio fragments. "Ha ha ha ha, error, meaningless syntax overload detected." Their fire control sensors flickered. The laughter became data, the data became code, and the code became corruption. Commander VorKAL's eyes widened as his bridge descended into chaos. "Halt transmissions. Purge the systems." "We can't," his technician cried. "It's recursive, it's feeding on our own relays. The laughter, it's rewriting our targeting algorithms." On screen, human faces appeared. Flickering images from ancient comedies, internet memes, reaction GIFs. Every display showed something different: endless absurdity. Vorkal roared. "This isn't warfare, it's madness." His ship's weapons misfired, turning against its escorts. Plasma cannons ripped through the fleet as their own guidance systems lost control. Below, on Earth, people cheered as alien ships began to fall. General Alvarez's voice came through Mara's earpiece. "Captain Holt, I don't know what the hell your scientists did, but their entire fleet's turning on itself." Mara allowed herself a grin. "Told you laughter was a strategy." Kian's fingers flew across the controls. "We're feeding the virus into their atmospheric drones now, hijacking their sensors to transmit our coordinates to each other instead of us." Translation: they'll shoot themselves before they shoot us. The Threx flagship plunged lower, engines sputtering. Vorkal gripped the armrest of his command throne, scales blistering under the heat. Around him, his officers shouted over the deafening chorus of human laughter echoing from every wall. One final message appeared across his main display, written in bold, glowing Terran script. "Time's up." The last thing Commander Vorkal saw before his ship erupted was his own reflection distorted, drowned beneath billions of laughing human faces. When the blast wave cleared, the sky went quiet. The Threx fleet disintegrated, some ships detonated in orbit, others fell burning through the atmosphere, crashing into oceans and deserts. Across the world, humanity watched as the invaders who promised extinction became falling stars. Mara stood in the command center, shoulders finally relaxing. The screens around her flickered with static, then one by one, news feeds lit up with cheering crowds. Kian turned to her, face pale but smiling. "Did we actually do it?" She nodded slowly. "Looks like we just defeated an empire with memes." Alvarez's voice came through the comm again, ragged but laughing. "Next time someone tells me humor's not a weapon, I'm showing them this day." Mara looked up at the night sky, the last Threx wreckage burning into streaks of light. "They gave us 24 hours to surrender," she whispered. "We used 23 to laugh, and 1 to win." Aftermath. The dawn after the invasion looked nothing like victory, at least, not at first. Cities still smoldered where the Threx ships had fallen. The oceans glimmered with burning debris, alien metal dissolving in salt water. Communications were fragmented, power grids unstable. Humanity had survived, but barely. And yet, in the broken streets, in the shattered glass, people were laughing. In Geneva, Captain Mara Holt stepped out from the bunker into pale morning light. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. The air smelled like ozone and dust, but above it all, she could hear something new: music. Someone had brought out speakers and was blasting a song from the 1980s across the plaza. People danced between armored vehicles, holding up handmade signs that read, "Time's up, lizards. Thank you for the Wi-Fi boost. Humans 1, aliens 0. The world hadn't surrendered. It had celebrated its survival. Mara stood still for a long time, watching people laugh with exhaustion and joy, tears running down their faces. They weren't mocking anymore, not really. They were alive, and laughter was simply what came out when the soul couldn't contain relief. In the command room below, Dr. Kian Lee sat slumped over a console, still surrounded by flickering holograms. His viral code, the meme protocol, was still running cleanup operations, scrubbing corrupted Threx data from Earth systems. General Alvarez entered, his uniform torn, soot streaking his face. He placed a hand on Kian's shoulder. "Doctor, the UN wants you in the global broadcast in an hour. You're the reason we're still breathing." Kian blinked up at him, dazed. "Me? I just made them laugh at the wrong time." Alvarez chuckled. "You weaponized humanity's greatest weakness and turned it into strength. Don't be modest." Kian smiled faintly. "Guess the aliens didn't get the joke." Elsewhere across the planet, people began piecing their lives back together. In New York, firefighters hauled alien wreckage from the streets. Someone spray-painted a fallen Threx drone with "Property of Earth." Children climbed on it like a jungle gym. In Tokyo, a group of students created a holographic exhibit replaying the Alien Ultimatum, but this time, synced perfectly to a comedy soundtrack. It was viewed 10 million times before noon. In Nairobi, survivors gathered in open squares, cooking together, laughing, telling stories of how they'd hidden in basements or jammed alien scanners by blasting human music. And somewhere in orbit, satellites drifted silently, grave markers for the empire that thought laughter meant weakness. At sunset, Mara stood before the world's leaders on a global transmission. Her uniform was scorched, her expression calm. The connection reached every surviving broadcast tower, every digital screen, every hand-built radio still functioning. She spoke simply, without speeches or pomp. 24 hours ago, we were given a choice: surrender or die. We did neither. We laughed instead. Some said it was madness, but it turned out to be our greatest strength. We are unpredictable. We are irrational. We are human. The Threx wanted obedience. They found resilience. They thought laughter meant fear. It meant defiance. And in that defiance, we stood together not as nations, but as one species. Remember this day. Remember that even when the universe demanded we kneel, we stood up laughing. The broadcast ended, and the world erupted in applause. For the first time in history, humanity's greatest victory was celebrated not with silence, but with shared laughter echoing across continents. Epilogue: The Threx Report. Far away, in the cold dark of space, a single damaged cruiser limped back to the Dominion's edge. Inside, the remaining Threx Council gathered around holographic displays of Earth. "Commander Vorkal is confirmed lost," one officer reported grimly. "The Terrans used mimetic warfare. Our AI suffered total collapse." The High Warlord hissed. "Explain, soldier. What kind of weapon did they use?" The officer hesitated. "Humor, sir." The chamber fell silent. Then, disbelieving, the warlord snarled, "You mean laughter destroyed an entire fleet?" "Yes, sir. They laughed at us. For 23 hours straight. We never recovered." The warlord looked at the image of Earth, spinning blue and bright on the screen. "A species that mocks death itself. They are not to be trifled with. Record this. Humanity is not to be conquered. Ever." Final scene. Back on Earth, night descended again. Cities glowed with light once more, streets filled with music, people rebuilding under banners that read, "We used 23 hours to laugh." In a quiet corner of Geneva, Mara and Kian sat on the roof of the defense center, watching the stars. Kian pointed upward. "Think they'll come back?" Mara shrugged. "Maybe. But next time, they'll know better." He chuckled softly. "I still can't believe we saved the world with memes." She smiled, her gaze distant but proud. "It wasn't the memes, Kian. It was the laughter. That's what they never understood. Laughter means hope, even when everything else burns." Above them, the aurora shimmered faintly, green and gold, as the last remnants of the alien fleet turned to dust. And somewhere, across the endless dark of the galaxy, the echo of human laughter still traveled, bright, wild, unstoppable.